Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Those Were the Days, where we take a look at classic TV through a modern lens with nostalgic eyes. We're gathered together in our metaphorical taxi hub to take you on a journey to a little sitcom of yesteryear called, well, Taxi. I'm your host, Steven, and joining me tonight, as always, are my resident cabbies, Amy Frost.
Listen, I don't want to be rich for the same reason that you guys do.
You mean not the houses, not the women, not the vacations?
Okay, maybe it's exactly the same.
Audie Norman.
I'm back from Omaha.
Did you happen to find your brains while you were out there?
I wasn't looking.
Dead TV's Travis.
Isn't it just wonderful how successful we are with the podcast and how everyone just loves it so much? And you know, I'm going to get rich and famous just like Kevin Smith, you know, and it's going to be great. And, you know, I would give it all up if I could just stop talking for 1 minute.
That's right. If you hear all that, then you know that this episode might just be about drugs, which is part of the theme.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, sure.
I'm completely normal right now.
Sure you are. Somebody got really inspired by this episode of television. That's all I got to say. So we're talking about a little episode of the classic sitcom, which funnily enough only ran for 5 seasons, called Taxi. Ran from 1979 to 1983 and entered my world in 1994 as a 9-year-old kid watching it on Nick at Night for whatever reason. And this episode is one of the few that like imprinted on me. I don't know why. Could be just a classic good episode, but it did. So when we started talking about drugs episodes, this is the one that immediately came to mind. And I know I know you guys don't have a relationship to this show, so I'm going to skip that. Like I don't think anybody has anything they know about it. But what I would love to go back to is that I did poll everybody prior to this episode about what you thought the cookies would be. So like, Amy, you had read about it already.
I had, but I mean, I did go into reading it with like an anticipation, right? Because you go, well, cookies. So obviously, and when I read it, I was like, oh, that's somewhat different than
Very
I
different.
was expecting.
Very different. And Audie, what did you use? You mentioned another drug, but I don't remember what it was. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe.
No, I was thinking it was either weed or some random drug from wherever country Latka is from.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. A drug from where Latka's from, a made-up drug.
Turns
Yes.
out, no, it was a very real drug. Very real.
Very real, very popular. And Travis, you pitched weed, which was a good guess.
Yeah, I mean, that was my assumption was like, well, they're going to go with the classic, you know, weed cookies, and I was wrong.
Yeah, you're gonna learn some lesson from the weed cookies, and it's gonna be your run-of-the-mill drug episode where we learn a lesson. But
We learned lessons, but they were they were not those lessons.
Very true. So I'm going to stop burying the lead here and say that it was all about the coca leaves, which if you're not familiar with drugs, which I wasn't, coca leaves byproduct when like refined and whatnot is cocaine. This episode was about cocaine. Go ahead, Travis.
Thinking about it after I got through the episode, I reflected. I'm like, that actually makes sense. It was the late 70s, early 80s. Cocaine was a huge thing in New York at the time, so I can see why they would go that route. So yeah, it makes sense, but it wasn't what I anticipated at all.
Sure. Yeah, I was
on television, right?
Right.
Yeah,
like,
on TV.
Prime time,
that's a whole
network
other
TV.
thing. Yeah.
Like this ran on CBS. It was not like hidden in the shadows or whatever. And this show was very popular at the time. And it was because of the producers of the show, James L. Brooks, had done Mary Tyler Moore, Rhoda, Phyllis, like all the spinoffs for that. Lou Grant, which Mary Tyler Moore, when you look back at that show, spawned like seven different TV series. This was not one of them, but it was definitely like that. There's a handful of producers from this era that just made everything, and I think we've
Yeah.
seen that in multiple
Mhm.
decades, where you're like, oh, their name's on literally every show on television.
Yeah.
And this is a James L. Brooks joint. So it was really popular, and what I was hoping that you might get out of it upon first viewing is that this show is stacked with a celebrity cast.
Oh yeah.
Like
That's
this
how I
Big
is
know
time.
this show. Like, I know about this show more about the cast than I do actually watching it. Because, good lord.
yeah.
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 Yeah, this was like
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's first run, Judd Hirsch's first starring role. Christopher Lloyd really made a name for himself on this show. Tony Danza's in the show.
I did not remember Tony Danza's show. I was like, wait a minute, is that Tony Danza?
That
And I
big
like that.
baby kid, Tony
What I
Danza.
like What I like about these old shows is that, like, so often it's just like, "No, we're just gonna use your real first name, that's fine, we'll just change your last name," and
That's
I love
that's
when
not
that
Just a
just
little
this
happens.
bit.
show though. That's Tony Danza. Like half of his
That's
roles are
true.
Tony.
Actually, you're
He was
right.
Tony on Who's the Boss.
Yeah,
He was
you're right.
Tony in this. I was looking through his IMDb and I'm like, yeah, a full 30% of these are his name is Tony. I don't know if
Tony.
it's like he
He
just
just
has
is a
trouble.
Tony, though, like
Yeah, he is. He's very much a Tony.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
It just works for him. I mean, why do the extra work when the name fits the person so well? You know,
'Cause
why
he's
yeah.
not gonna
try?
play a different character. Like,
No.
the character is the same.
Right. He is perfectly fine being typecast as Tony.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think we're
Yep.
perfectly fine with him being typecast as Tony. Like it's just
Mhm.
what you do. So yeah, Tony Danza, Jeff Conway of Grease fame, Kanicki, he's in this show. Like I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of heavy
Mhm.
players, and it's cool to see that group together. Just in realizing what careers they've gone on to have. I thought that's just pretty wild to me. And and every one of them gets kind of a moment in this show that I really dug. Like it's a big cast.
Yeah,
And
Judd Hirsch.
everyone. Yeah. He's like the
Mhm.
Judd Hirsch is meant to be your view into this group of
Yeah.
cabbies.
Yep.
He's meant to be the everyman, the man everyone comes to for wisdom, the straight guy, and everyone else is kind of an extraneous player that he's viewing, and he's the anchor of the show. And you see that as it goes along, and even in the introduction of the show in the first episode, in the pilot, he's the guy that you see first, and Mary Lou Henner's character is the one that comes in and is like, "I'm new to being a cabbie," and he explains to her the whole jam. And one of the things I
Mhm.
loved about the show is the way it intros it. He's like, he tells who everybody is, and he's like, "Oh, this guy, he's a Broadway actor. You know, cabbies in the middle, you know, for fun or out to make some money. You're an art director. You're a cabbie. He's a boxer." Like, and he gives everybody's
Yeah.
alternate occupation. He's like, "Me, I'm a cab driver. That's what I do. I'm the cab driver." Um, and it's pretty cool, and they play on that as the series goes on. Everybody's got their big break moment, and a lot of the episodes are about how it doesn't work out, or how Alex has to calm them down or make them feel better, and he's just always carrying around people's anxieties. And they actually they deal with that later, the crushing weight of him trying to take care of everyone in this place. It really it touched on a lot of things in its run, and it's a fantastic show to go back and check out. But as far as what we're gonna concentrate on is this particular episode, which begins with Latka coming in late, and this is where, if you've never watched Taxi before, you get a peek into Danny DeVito's megalomaniacal, overarching ruler of the cab domain. Like, he lives in his little cage and yells at people. And
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm interested to see if you expected anything else out of Danny DeVito in this
No.
role.
I really did not. I knew. So my background with Taxi was I had seen the occasional episode, but I wasn't really into it necessarily. But I knew that Danny DeVito was in his little cage. He yelled a lot. He fired people or whatnot. He was the overbearing boss, and I knew that Andy Kaufman was Latka and
Yeah.
just crazy. And that was
Yeah.
that was kind of the extent of what I knew. So it was a great opening for that
Yeah.
because it was like Latka coming in with his tiny little steps. Very, there was a lot of like Looney Tunes cartoon stuff going on in this,
Oh
which I
yeah.
dug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Andy Kaufman is a master of that, and I think a lot of it is in his just childlike demeanor, like his
Mhm.
eyes just so
Yeah.
big and full of wonder all the time, and you're like, he's just portraying this innocence that he really doesn't deserve because he's not really that innocent of a guy. The longer you go on, like he just finds himself in these naive is a better word, but
Yeah.
not necessarily of everything, just of weird things Americans do. But that whole character was based off of an Andy Kaufman stand-up skit called Foreign Man, and that's what they pulled him into the show to basically do all the time.
And the thing with Latka is like watching this episode made me realize that he's not this simpleton or this innocent character that like the outer appearance and the voice and everything would lead you to believe, which I actually like and I think makes the character a ton more interesting.
So I have a question. Do we actually ever know where Laka is really from? Or is that like part of it? Like we never really know.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think they ever
Okay.
named the country. Andy Kaufman had a country in his skit that he did, but I don't recall the country from that Foreign Man stand-up.
I'm looking at the wiki. He called the fictional island of Caspiar in the Caspian Sea.
Okay.
Hmm.
So whatever, for what that's worth.
Because he definitely does have an accent of indeterminable origin.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and his gibberish is
See-
is the same.
Yeah.
There's nothing
That's
there.
like that is something that
Mhm.
only Andy Kaufman is capable of doing. Like that
Yes.
level of that gibberish, just so like he's just making that up on the spot, and it's so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Man, for me, Taxi, like I never watched Taxi. Like I caught clips of it here and there. I know, like I said, I know the cast from it, but I can't remember ever sitting down and actually watching a full episode. So this was great. And like you said, Danny DeVito coming out, I was like, oh, so this is where his typecasting came from. This
Mhm.
role. Okay. Because
Small and mad.
small and I keep thinking about him in Disney's Hercules for some reason.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because he played the little goat dude.
Uh-huh.
yes.
I
Yeah.
keep thinking of that character of all of them. Like, but yeah, this was fun. And yeah, Andy Kaufman. Oh my gosh. And the other thing that stood out to me about Andy Kaufman is like he is what started Latka did his little shuffle so that Balky Bartokomous could
Yeah.
jump and do the dance of joy. Like I
Yep.
found a lot of things I was like,
Absolutely.
oh, that's where he got it from. Balky got it from Latka. Okay, cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's it's definitely fun to watch them start out like this and then kind of grow. And yeah, the Tiptoes and the Looney Tunes stuff definitely plays in. There's a direct Looney Tunes reference in a second, but so Latka
Mhm.
comes in basically late, and Louie is just giving him crap about being late, and they go back and forth over. Well, you know what? I got my grandma's cookie recipe now, and I'm gonna be famous. Because this is what we let everybody taste the cookies. That happens before this moment.
Oh my gosh.
He brings in the cookies, and everybody's like, "That's great, Latka," and they're so supportive. They're just the best
Mhm.
group of friends. And he gives everybody a cookie, and they start gnawing on it. And they are clearly not good. Like these cookies
Not
are
good.
terrible in texture, taste, everything about.
Mhm.
But people came from miles around to get his grandmother's cookies,
Mhm.
and he's like, "They've got to taste delicious." And I
Mhm.
think
Did you
Elaine's,
swallow it yet? I haven't swallowed it yet. What's going on?
Elaine's line is the best one. I think it's keep growing in my mouth.
It's getting
Yeah.
bigger.
She's chewing.
I
I
love
think it's
the
getting
way
bigger.
I love the way Tony's chewing on it, and he has to like pause 3 times to get his sentence out. Like he just like
Go.
swallows it. No, Latka, they're great.
So when I was in high school, we did a production of Grease, and at one point, one of the guys, I forget who it is, right, takes a big bite out of a snowball. And we had real snowballs, but the problem was that the kid who was doing it had never had a snowball before, and we only had them like for the show. And so he took like a real giant bite, not knowing what it was. And that was all I could think of that whole time because it's the same thing. Is that like, oh no.
The
Oh,
hostess
He just
snowballs with the coconut
Yeah,
all over.
with
Oh
the
yeah,
and the
that.
marshmallow.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Nope. That's
If you
regrettable.
don't know, it's too much.
It's way.
Not to
that's
mention,
gross.
Latka's cookies were huge.
Yeah,
Massive.
Freaking cookies.
Yeah.
yeah. They were like they were the size of like a hamburger. Like they were just
They looked
massive.
Mhm.
healthy.
Right.
Yes.
Like they looked like those like no sugar, whole grain, all your
Mm.
dried fruit
Gluten-free.
sweetened. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're held together
Looked
with
like
dates.
Yeah, not like good.
With the consistency of like a 3-day-old
Particle
power
board.
bar.
Yeah.
A particle
Like
board.
knock them on the table and stuff.
Sawdust
Yeah.
and dates.
So they eat these cookies, they try them out, and Latka's all disheartened because they don't like them. But he's like, "No, I'm gonna be famous. I'm gonna be as famous Amos, the cookie king or whatever he called him. I can't remember the exact wording." And then Louis comes out, and they go back and forth over, "I quit. You're fired. I quit. You're fired." Louis wants to fire him, and Latka wants to quit. And if I'm Louis, I stop and I let Latka quit. I don't have to pay unemployment if he quits. You know,
That was my thought.
like Louis, you're trying to win an ego contest, but this is bad for business. Like, just let him go.
Yep.
But they go back and forth, and eventually Louis goes the loudest. It's not who says it first; it's who says it loudest. He charges off to his cage, grabs the microphone, and yells, "You're fired! You're fired! You're fired!" And Latka quietly says, "I quit! I quit! I quit!"
Right there. I lost it.
That was
Oh my
it for you.
gosh. That was it for me. When he was over the microphone, just "You're fired! You're fired! You're fired!" I was like, "Oh my god, kill me now." That's too funny.
Then, of course, you got the duck season, rabbit season moment where Latka sneaks back in and looks at Louis and says, "I'm fired." And Louis goes, "You quit!" And then clearly got the end.
And that's what got
at
me.
the end,
That was the moment that got me because, and that's again where I said like Latka isn't just this innocent buffoon, is that he gives the very quiet like, "Okay, I quit," and starts to walk away, and then you see him realize what he can do and turn around and sneak back over, and it's so good.
The little tiptoe thing.
it wasn't so much the "you quit" that got me. It's Latka's right after that. "Thank you very much," and then he walks away. Just like, "I win."
Just takes off. Yeah. So after that, we know Latka's evidently never coming back to the cab company. And the next day, we see these folks walk in, and they're still enjoying the cookies. Like they're sitting at the table, if I remember this right, and they're all sitting eating the cookies. And Tony's still upset about it. He's like, "I started on mine last night, woke up and picked it up again this morning, left it on the bedpost." So they've got some
But there's
legs.
just something about it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's chewy.
It's
I like
not
it.
good, but you like chewing it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it was.
You just like to chew it. There's plenty of drugs that are probably like that. It just doesn't taste good, but I just like to chew it. And then everybody quickly gets assigned their cabs for the day, and they start taking off. Well, Jim walks in right before this happens. That's right, the Reverend Jim, Christopher Lloyd. And if this is your first experience with Taxi, Christopher Lloyd was meant to be a walk-on role to do a very specific thing in the first season. Latka's getting deported, and they find this guy on the street who can do a paper marriage for him and a prostitute they found. So they go get Jim's an ordained reverend by some wacky church of hippies. And so they drag him in, and he made such an impression that they decided to make him a series regular, bring him back. So he was guest star in the first season, and then he was all full cast member after that. And it's in Jim's representation of a burned out hippie that you realize why they bring him to stay on forever as a cast member. Christopher Lloyd is nothing short of magic in this role. And if you only know him as Doc Brown and Judge Doom and like a handful of other characters, this let him stretch some comedy chops. Like, I mean, Doc Brown was funny, but this is a different level. Like, he's on a different plane in both in character and in acting, you know. Oh, go ahead, Travis.
When you can go toe to toe with Andy Kaufman in his prime and be as funny, if not funnier, that is some heavyweight comedy chops. And Christopher Lloyd does that. Like Reverend Jim is such a good character, and he is so incredible. Like, he has one scene in this episode, and it's just fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that because he walks in and she's basically back from vacation. Everybody else kind of leaves to go get their cab. They take their cookies with them, and they leave a cookie on the table. So he sits down, just kind of looks in the bag like, "Oh, cookies." Go ahead, Audie.
Did anybody decipher what Alex was telling him as he left? Like,
Not a clue.
is that supposed to be anything?
I don't think so. That was great.
That
That was so good.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
That's the best part is he understood it. Whatever
Yeah.
it was supposed to be. He's like, I
Well,
got
at least
that.
acted like he did.
Sure. That was really good. Judd Hirsch's mouthful rambling was pretty great too. That whole thing this episode. So he sits down with the cookies and he begins what is maybe one of my favorite exercises of physical comedy in all classic TV is analyzing these cookies. So he looks in the bag and he pulls out the cookie and he kind of just sniffs it and he goes, "Whoa, it's hiding a little surprise inside." But in such a way that his just delivery is spot on every step of the way. And Louie's like, he kind of still wants to screw over Latka, which at this point, he's not forgotten this. He keeps saying, "The guy I fired," and you get this refrain of people yelling, "He quit!" Just over the loudspeakers, but it's just fantastic. So then Jim's sitting down, and he starts kind of going, what's in here? He like cracks open the cookie, smells, he's like, coca leaves. He listens to it. He's basically a wine snob with the cookies.
He's a cocaine sommelier, and
That's
74 before the rains.
South America, Peru, Southern Peru. 74 before the rain.
Oh, it's so good.
And just the way, like, he's crumbling it in his ear and he's listening to it, and then he tastes a little bit, spits it out.
He
sniffs
when he takes the hit. It's just like, oh my gosh. And the audience knows what he's doing and is just losing it.
He sniffs it and he like wipes his nose like it's so good. It's so good.
He's got Louis standing right there when he takes a little bite of it and he just spits it out in front of him and like that was improv. Like that was just Christopher Lloyd just making up stuff.
Rocking it.
That was amazing.
Oh yeah, that whole scene, you could kind of tell Danny DeVito was trying real hard to hold it together. Like he turned an honest to goodness like smile that is just I'm about to die laughing to like that sinister mischievous smile, which is the same. He could evoke the same emotion just in a slightly tweaked way, so he could be like, I can not waste film on this because this is too good. So yeah, and all this time, like Louie's like, I'm gonna screw Latka because if this has cocaine in it, he's done. He gets his buddy to put the police on the phone until Jim explains what cocaine does to you or whatever coca leaves do to you. Because we never say cocaine directly.
No.
We don't say the word cocaine. We just say coca leaves. Fantastic way to subvert the standards and practices, by the way.
Yes.
You're going to get around it, They put coca leaves in Coca-Cola there for a while,
Which is, so there's, in a little bit when we get to, when Judd Hirsch comes back and he's like, there's something going on. He gets, even though there is no branding, it is very clearly the old Coca-Cola machine from which he takes the classic Coca-Cola bottle, which used to be made from coca leaves.
There you go. That's a really good point. I didn't I didn't put that together. That's a really good point.
I wound up rewinding. I was like, wait a minute. Is it? Yep, it's the classic red machine.
That's the red machine.
Oh, yeah.
They did it.
Yep.
So Louis on the get the police on the phone. We're gonna get this shut down. And then the Jim talks about the effects. One of the effects being make you see beauty in the most repulsive of things. And Elaine walks out. And she's walking by. She grabs her little slip so she can go drive her cab. And then she stops and comes back and like examines Louis' ear in a very seductive kind of way, like, ooh, your ear is so cute. Louis immediately shuts down the police call. Nope, I don't know what you're
I
talking
got the cops on the phone. Tell them to mind their own business.
Yeah, complete reversal of fortune. And this is when things start to turn into our, okay, maybe there's an actual problem with all of this kind of moments. The next day, or late, I guess it's the next day, Judd Hirsch comes in and he's doing this amazing, like, like a little cackle. Still chewing a cookie. Yeah. They haven't put them down. Just and then walk around a little bit, look a little concerned. Just like finally figures out, like, Louis, you noticed anything weird about me? And Louis, who doesn't want to spoil the surprise anymore, because he's got like, what did he have? A wine glass, like
the champagne bottle of champagne.
Yeah, in his hand, and a bag of cookies. Where they're getting the extra cookies, I don't know, but they're showing up. So he's got the wine glass or the champagne and the cookies. Like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. And then Judd Hirsch goes into how he's been writing operas. He wrote an opera last night because he thought it'd
Couldn't
be
sleep.
fun.
Word opera.
Yeah, so I
It
wrote an
was.
opera.
That was really fun. I didn't know one.
Louis' response to that is great. You wrote an opera? He's like, yeah, it was fun. I might do it again tonight.
Write another one tonight. Yeah, so
And that's when I'm going, oh, okay.
Yeah,
no,
you're
this
right.
is actually right. No, this
Okay.
this is why Hollywood hasn't had an original thought in 30 years. They stopped doing coke.
Makes sense now.
Yeah. Man, Scorsese and those guys, they knew what was up in the 70s. We don't do anything new anymore. So all the coke is gone.
And then you've got you cut over and there's Bobby dancing across the background.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It just keeps back and forth.
You seen anything weird? And he dances across the back, and Louis just like, haven't noticed anything.
Yeah.
Just continuing
Yeah, that's
to
the funniest
downplay.
thing. Alex and Louis looking at each other like, "Did you just see that?"
Like,
Because
no
I
one
just saw
wants to
that.
admit to it.
Yeah. Everyone wants to be like, nah, something's going on. So then Elaine ends up walking in a little bit, and Louis like, come into my cage. And she's talking about how she has verifiable evidence of the existence of God. And he's like, that's nice. Come on up here and hang out with me in this
Have some
cage.
cookies.
Yeah, and I've got some cookies. We're all set. We got everything we need. But I'm trying to put together, you guys might remember better than me because I'm following this chain. I watched this show twice, and now I can't remember how we got from Alex to Latka's house. Because Alex makes the determination that something's up. I can't remember who told him the coca leaves were in there.
No
They-
one
they
did, but
never
it was
say
when
it.
Tony. Then
That's
Tony
right.
comes in.
Tony came in.
Tony's perfectly normal, or he seems normal. Asks anybody if they
Mhm.
want a cup of coffee. Then he goes over and just picks up the coffee machine and carries
The
it
whole
halfway
vending
across
machine.
the
Oh my
garage.
God.
That's right. And then it cuts to Alex going over to Latka's house.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so we figure somewhere between there, he figures out there's coca leaves in the cookies.
There's something wrong with the cookies. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something wrong with the cookies. So so then he goes over. He's got to go find Latka because something's going on with these cookies. I'm going over to Latka's house where we find Latka baking up a storm. And now, Amy, I'm going to need you to verify to the people that you cannot just load hundreds of cookies on a single cookie sheet and shove it in the
No.
oven and expect that to
No.
result in cookies.
No, you definitely cannot. He had
And
big cookie sheets too. He had like the big industrial cookie sheet. Did not
I
have
was gonna
big
say,
industrial oven, but
So,
that
had that
oven
logo all
in his
set.
apartment.
Already had a branded apron.
Yep.
yeah.
I like that he had two posters. One was with Grandma and the Grandma's Cookies logo, and the other one was Famous Amos, who I did not know was a real dude. Because nowadays, right? Like nowadays, if a brand is like there's no real people. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not since Paul Newman made salad dressing.
That's
And,
right.
and so now it's
Sure.
it's just like, or it's already a celebrity, right? Like you're a celebrity and you make a thing. So I
Mhm.
was like not prepared for Famous Amos to actually be like a dude and like a chill, cool guy. I
Yeah.
was like, man, your cookies should be better than
Yeah.
this.
They're
Well,
definitely.
back then when he was still running the company, probably were
They
better.
probably were better, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all
he sadly he eventually lost that company.
Oh, did he really? Oh.
Yeah, and the name was trademarked by like a previous company that he'd been a part of. So he ended up not
Mhm.
having the name anymore and had to start a new company under a different name.
Oh,
All sorts of dumb stuff.
people screw
may have-
Cookie
these.
drama.
It's like
I know,
KFC. Like poor Colonel Sanders just got raked over the coals. Did the same thing with Famous Amos. You know, that's a different
But
podcast.
The scene in Latka's
It sounds like
apartment
one I
is
do.
like my favorite thing in this episode because
So
like
good.
the comedy of that, like him taking the pan of cookies out is great. And then it's ridiculous how he's just literally just dumping them on the table. Some of them are getting in the bag.
Barely into
that
the bag.
alone,
Counting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that alone is a perfectly great physical gag. But then for him to pick up the entire table and tip it and just let it
Slide
all
it
run
into
into
the-
the box, and then just say 16 and go back to what he was doing. I loved it. It was so good. The whole time he's doing this gibberish and just going 100 miles an hour. It was,
Mhm.
I loved it.
What was so funny about that scene, like while I was trying to grab sound clips, I really wanted a sound clip of him doing gibberish and singing, but everyone was laughing in the audience so
Yep.
hard, it was worthless.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
cannot grab anything out of this because it's just people constantly laughing the entire time he's making those cookies. And he's got like
Mhm.
the thickest dough I've ever seen in the biggest
But that is
bowl.
what that's those organic,
Yep.
gluten-free, fruit juice sweetened
Mhm.
nonsense.
It was like just
Particle board.
Play-Doh, but worse. Yeah, it's like wood glue and chips just all together,
Yes.
just like stringing.
It's no wonder those
Fiberglass.
cookies are so dang big and so dang thick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
they were big time. And I do want one. I mean, minus cocoa leaves. I would eat a cookie that looked like that. You know, I would try it.
I'll make you some cookies that look like that.
Awesome, Amy, you're the best. There's Amy's
I'm good.
cookies that's gonna be based off of Lyca's cookies, minus the cocaine. So Alex
right.
shows up. Yeah, sure, minus the coke. We'll say that on
Right.
the air. You know, there's not going to be any cocaine in there, as far as we know. Uh,
As far as I know.
so Alex walks into Locke's apartment, and he has to slow him down. Like, there's something in the cookies. We've got a problem. You got to quit making them. You
Mhm.
can't sell them. There's drugs in there, and that's when Latka realizes, oh man, like there's no argument to like, no, I want to do this. It doesn't go drama heavy. And like, I
No.
gotta do this. It doesn't go Saved by the Bell. I'm so scared. It's just like a realization, like, oh crap, I'm losing my business, which I thought was a really good way to take it. They could have
Yeah.
gone, you
Mhm.
know, in a weird preachy kind of direction, but instead they just went like, oh shoot, I've made all these cookies. It's not I've ruined people's lives. I've done all this. It's just I can't sell
No.
them because they're illegal now.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a Latka-ease tirade at Grandma, which I did manage to capture some sounds of him doing that. Which just here,
Nice.
this is what Latka's gibberish sounds like.
Oh no, di ba tayo nabiti ko na bala ko sa ibita ka diba? Ibita na bati ka diba? Iba to nabiti ka diba? Iba to nabiti ko diba? Sa ko diba? Tama to nabiti ka diba? Niko diba? Pawad na bala ko diba?
That's him losing it
Good.
at Grandma.
Oh my gosh.
She was a very sweet woman. Very
Yeah,
sweet and busy.
yeah, she's just busy.
So
Doilies.
many doilies.
Doilies. Oh, I forgot about the doilies.
Maybe that's
Mhm.
why I can't crochet.
Here's a doily, you old bat.
Oh,
So good. So eventually,
I
Alex
just loved
gets
when
him. Oh, go
Alex
ahead.
was like, "We've got to get rid of all these cookies." Like, he's like, "Okay, let me pick this one
Start
out of
with
my
this
pocket
one.
and eat it."
Little
Just, no,
stop. Yeah, and then he has a real sincere conversation with Laka, like, I'm gonna stay with you. You're probably gonna get sick. You might get, you know, you're gonna have issues
It's
sleeping.
gonna be a bad night.
It's gonna be a bad. Like, how cool is that? That they were approaching this like, you're gonna have to come off of this, and it's gonna hurt, but I'm here for you. Like,
Also,
without
isn't Judd still like Judd's
yeah,
been eating cookies? He's not
right.
gonna have a great
Mhm.
night either.
no,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they managed to do that in a way that was like very heartfelt without getting melodramatic and being
Yeah.
like super very special episode, right? And
yeah,
I
yeah.
liked that a lot. I love that because you're right. That moment I was like, this is really cool that he's willing to stay with him and they're gonna ride this out together. And boy, that got fun real quick too, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. Because he was like, you might see some things, you might hallucinate, you know, but we're in this together. Which I thought too spoke to the Alex character again of that anchor for everyone. Like, he's
Mhm.
also addicted to cocaine at this point. He's gonna have to kick it too, but his focus is on his friends. Like, I'm gonna help you, and by helping you, I'll help me, and we'll get through this together. Which I thought was a fantastic message, whether they were trying to convey that or not. That's like some true friendship in there. But, you know, we could lighten things back up again and just have Latka have a hallucination. And this, there's so many different ways to hallucinate a cookie person showing up at your apartment. Flying in from the ceiling might be number one on my list of how you would do that.
Mhm.
They could have done a poof. They could have done like a dissolve. They could have done a daydream.
Mhm.
They didn't.
No.
It's just a raw cut.
He just flies in.
He just like goes down with his finger in the air like he's falling from heaven. And he tells Latka, you know, hey man, your cookies didn't work out and you got other things to do. He said, but no, like all this stuff about living your best life or whatever, it's all a crock. You want that money. You want that success.
You could do jelly rolls. You could do cupcakes. You could do aluminum siding.
Just make the money, man. Like that was
So good.
Yeah. The message here was definitely one of pro capitalism.
Which ends on the highest of notes at the very
Yup.
end of the episode.
Yes, the best. The message that you're supposed to take from this, you know. So after that, Latka, he throws out this line too that I thought was really great because he says, "I'm not real, I'm in your mind." And Latka goes, "If I knew you were coming, I would have cleaned up a bit." That's good. I like that. So then Famous Amos, in one of my favorite visual gags of the episode, floats away in the same way he came down. It's just like this pause, this finger in the air, and he just directly upwards, just floats out of
Yep.
frame. That's how it works. So kudos to the taxi people for getting Famous Amos to actually come in and do this scene. Like that
Yeah.
was pretty wild. And again, Amy, I was with you when I watched this the first
Yeah.
time, like as a kid. I didn't know Famous Amos was real. And up to this viewing, I wasn't 100% sure that was actually like Famous Amos. I thought it
I
could
had to
be.
go look. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah, I
is this
wondered about
somebody?
that
Is
too.
this just like a celebrity I don't recognize?
Right.
Right? Like, is this an inside joke to everyone else that I am not getting? No. It's just Famous Amos, who
Yeah.
I presume was on the
Mhm.
package at one point.
Yeah, oh sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
They had posters of him, I
Yeah.
kind of want a Famous Amos poster now that I've seen one. Because that would just go look great in this room.
That would be a great poster to have.
It would. So Famous Amos leaves. Latka goes and wakes up Alex and says, Alex, I have a revelation. I know what I'm going to do. I've got to be richer than anything. I want to be successful. I want to be the richest man ever. And he goes, Alex, I think I just realized something. And I was like, what? I've just become an American. And then like puts his hand over his heart and looks up. And
I
the
just want to
episode,
be. He says something about wanting to be rich.
yeah.
I want to make more money than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I have become an American.
I'm an American.
Uh,
And then the episode.
And that's
music
where the
plays.
show ends.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the punchline. That's the break.
yep.
There is
There
is
That's
no
why he's
stop.
got Famous Amos has his finger in the air because on the poster he's balancing a cookie.
Yeah, so that's the way Latka
Wow.
sees him, balancing
Perfect.
the cookie and showing up. Yeah, so this was just a joy. I actually honestly watched this show maybe 3 times. I watched this episode because I watched it the day I pitched it as the idea to make sure I wanted to do it. And then I watched it again because it was just funny. Then I watched it to take notes and capture sound clips and stuff, which is just, it to me, it speaks to the quality of the writing and the acting and everything about this show that made it work for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Like I watched it 2.5 times today. Because I watched it once just to take it in. I watched it a second time to make sure like I didn't miss anything from the moments that I was laughing the first time.
Sure.
Yep.
And then I watched the scene in Latka's apartment again to work out for my open
Okay.
to get that cadence right.
You're right. Yeah.
And because it was just too funny.
Sure. I loved how, Adi, you were talking in the chat that you had that couch with Latka's pattern on it. Was that you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at SCAT, we got a sectional wicker couch from like some big used place. We lived right across from the Civic Center, and the Civic some used furniture sale. Like as soon as we got there, and my roommate was like, "Let's go get a couch," and he got this weird sectional wicker couch that was like L shaped. So it was like 4 pieces. One of them's a corner, and the cushions to that were the exact print of Lot's couch. Oh my god,
Amazing.
that's my couch. That's crazy.
That's so amazing.
I would like to assume a lot less cocaine was done on your couch than maybe Latka's, where he ate those cookies.
Yeah, but I mean, it was art school, so
I was gonna say
I
art school.
refuse.
Like, let's not.
Yeah, I mean that basically fuels
And I'll leave it
creativity.
there.
Yeah, so as
As
far
we
as
just learned.
yeah, I was about
Yeah.
to say. So as far as anti-drug messages, this clearly is pre-Nancy Reagan. Everybody's got to have an anti-drug episode because this wasn't necessarily anti-drug as much. It was like anti-illegal stuff. Like it was like you can't
Yeah.
sell your cookies, but they all had a great time being on those cookies. It was pretty clear from the onset that Bobby was doing great performing his play
It was
for
amazing.
himself. Tony was probably going to win every boxing bout he ever fought after that. You know, Elaine was seeing visions. It was just all going well for
She
everyone.
knew about God. She had
Yeah,
empirical evidence of God.
she's seen
She
him.
was going to start a cult.
Yeah, shit, what's gonna happen?
Yes.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you can only be on cocaine so long before it's just gonna wreck you. I mean, look at Jim. You know, that's
true.
Lord
I
knows
don't
what
know.
his
It
drug
worked out
abuse was.
worked out all right for David Bowie for
Yeah,
quite a time.
you know, it has legs. We're not here to condone drug doing. Just for
No.
anyone listening, drug doing. Is that what the kids say?
Sure.
Drug doing, definitely.
Yeah, but this show, like, overall, I went and got some stats on it because I was like, this only ran for 5 seasons. Was it that popular? It was immensely popular while it was on TV. It was nominated for 31 Emmys over the
Wow.
course of its run. It won 18, and it was nominated for
geez.
25 Golden Globes and won 4. So this show was no play around. I think Judd Hirsch actually won Best Lead Actor in a Series on Emmys in an Emmy for this.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I remember what was cool about seeing or watching the show as a kid, like when Independence Day came around and Judd Hirsch was playing Jeff Goldblum's dad. I was like, holy crap, I know that guy. Like, most of my friends were like, what are you even talking about? Like, I'm Judd Hirsch. He's on Taxi. I was all excited. And in that movie, I always thought he was like a super old dude. He was not that old in
No.
Independence Day, but he was playing old. But he's still doing TV. He's 80 plus years old, and he's on some donut show sitcom right now. And he did an interview with Mark Maron recently, and you would swear you're listening to a 40-year-old man. His voice hasn't changed. His cadence hasn't changed. The way he has a conversation, it's not like you're listening to some old dude. I swear, it was mind-blowing. I'm like, what is he having a lot of cookies, huh? Yeah, he played Mark Maron's dad on his sitcom. They talked about that a little bit on the show. But yeah, it's kind of cool. And another thing about the cast is they still keep in touch. Mary Lou Henner's really popular because she's like the person that never forgets. If you ever followed her, seen anything about her, usually it's this woman has a memory and never forgets anything. And that's the case. Like, she can remember down to the date of time stuff has happened. So they always look to her, they're like, when did that happen, Mary Lou? And she'd be like, oh, January 7th of 1976. And they're like, what the devil? And she'll remember details about those days. She just has one of those magic brains that can be both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes you want to forget things. Sometimes it's better to not remember. But yeah, they apparently during the pandemic still did Zoom calls with the cast because they just are friends, which I thought was wild.
Aw.
And Danny DeVito's even pitched wanting to do a Taxi reunion movie because most of them are still alive. I think Jeff Conway passed away. Probably like it's probably been 10. I think it's been 5 years ago. It's probably been 10. Andy Kaufman obviously passed away, but the rest of them, you know, they're pretty much still kicking for now, which is pretty great. But
And
yeah,
I mean, Christopher Lloyd only looks like he's about 100 years older
Oh,
than he
yeah.
was back then.
dude, Christopher Lloyd, he looked old then, looks old now.
I know.
Yeah, he was probably in his 30s at the time, right? Maybe. I didn't look it up. But yeah, the whole show was great. But I did to move us along a little bit. I did grab some sound clips and things I thought was pretty great, jokes that made me laugh pretty hard. So we've got a few. This one was from the crew tasting the cookies initially, and this is one of my favorite quotes out of that.
No, like tastes vary.
Tastes very wet.
That was very Balky Bartakamos.
Yes. Yes, it
Like,
was.
definitely cribbed that. Balky cribbed that direct.
That really got me. I laughed
Yeah.
pretty hard about this one. This is Ferrati. This is the I quit stuff.
Who says it loudest? You're fired! You're fired! You're fired! You're fired!
I quit.
I can't hear you. You're fired! You're fired!
I can't hear you. I quit.
You're fired! You're fired! You're fired!
Okay. But I quit.
And then
But I quit.
the duck season.
I'm fired.
You quit!
Thank you very much.
It's all such a good gag, and I had to grab a couple Christopher Lloyd moments because they just this is
You're fired!
why is that coming back?
You quit!
Stop. Go away, sound. This happened earlier, and I couldn't figure out why it kept going.
You quit!
All right, I got it. Oh, you know why? Never mind that. I got it. It's fine. It's not going to come back, I don't think. That was whatever. It's fine. Hey, podcast. This is what happens. Anyway, okay, here's the Christopher Lloyd sound.
You didn't happen to run into your brains while you were out there, did you?
No, but I wasn't really looking.
That delivery just put me in stitches.
So good.
The delivery of the line where he says, "Omaha is beautiful this time of year. I thought you were going to Seattle." I was. Must have used the wrong thumb.
I forgot about that. Was really good. This is when he first starts going through the cookies and he notices something for the first time, and I just want to use this for like literally everything.
Ooh, they got a nice little surprise inside.
Just that long drawn out. Then he starts going through them. That was just the best. The kickoff of that led down just a wonderful road, and then finally I got this reasons he wanted to be rich quote.
You know, I did not want to be rich for the same reasons that other men want to be rich.
Oh, you mean not for the houses, the cars, or the women?
Or maybe it was the same reason.
It's just such a bait and switch. Like it's masterfully done. I just don't know how you get better than that.
That's quality writing and then quality performance.
Mm-hmm.
That is what that is. That's how you win primetime Emmys 3-4 years in a row, right?
Yeah. It's just spot on. It's a teamwork, team effort. People who know how to deliver it and people who know how to because this isn't how you naturally talk. This is how you naturally have a conversation. This is targeted at the right timing 100% every single time. And you get that out of this show over and over and over again. You know, some episodes are winners. Like if you just do decide to go back and watch some of this, some episodes are winners. Some episodes are like, yeah. There's a few in the first season that kind of get a little heavy and you're like, this was heavy for longer than I wanted it to be. You know how that works. But once this is season 3. They know what they're doing now. They got a process. And it's pretty dang good. Like they throw some characters out that they don't need anymore. I think there was a few people that were on the first season. They were like, one person could do all their lines and we'd get the same effect. So they like kicked them to the curb. You know, but it's all in the name of making the best show you can. So that is Taxi. Any last minute thoughts from any of you guys on the show overall?
I want to go back and watch some more Taxi.
Yeah.
I remember, like I say, I remembered like it being on because it ran on Nick at Night all the time.
Yeah.
For a spell, and I would stumble across it, but I'd never stop and like really pay attention. I want to go back and watch it and pay some more attention and just kind of enjoy it.
Cool.
Same.
Yeah,
I want to go back and watch some more. Like the clip of when Reverend Jim is going to take his exam to be a driver, I came across where he's asking, you know, what does a yellow light mean? I was like, slow down. And he's like, what does the yellow light, like that whole bit? Just stuff like that. Yeah, I want to go back and watch some more. I don't know how much I'm going to get to, but I want to try and watch a little bit more.
Yeah.
I feel like this was one of my dad's shows, I think. So it was just sort of on sometimes. And this is pretty great. I'm in. I'm all in.
Awesome. That's good to hear. As I've said before on the show, this is up there for me in my history with classic TV with like I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff. This is one that I put on a mountain of a lot of shows I've watched, and you watch a ton of them and they're kind of forgettable. And this one has always kind of stood out to me as something that was truly special. There's one last anecdote I wanted to share that I thought was really great about Danny DeVito getting Louis De Palma, getting this role. He heard about the casting call, and for some reason, he'd read the character, he knew what it was about. He walks into the audition walks directly up to the director, producers of the show, slams the script down on the table and said, "Which one of you wrote this crap?" And they all died. And he wasn't like super well known at the time. You know, they knew who he was.
Yeah.
But he goes into, which one of you wrote this crap? And they cast him on the spot. And he was like, that could have gone
Amazing.
really
Oh,
bad.
very wrong. Yes, absolutely.
But it was exactly what they wanted. And him just having to have short stature and be that violent, they were like, yes, please. This is going to play so well on the screen. So we can thank him having some guts going in for his pretty much, I mean, this put him on the map. So his whole career up to that point. But yeah, so that's Taxi. Thank you guys for watching it and joining me and wandering along that journey with me. That was a lot of fun for me to go back and visit. As far as what's coming up next, for one thing, we've got our theme poll. So that is happening. You can choose between, I think our next ones are power couples, political shows, cooking shows, and spin-off shows. So cast your vote over at Those Days Show. It's a Twitter poll. I mean, if you need to poll on the side by writing us an email, thosewere-the-days-show@gmail.com, you can do that for sure. That's definitely a possibility. Let me throw out, I did get a tweet. I got a tweet I want to read before we close that, before I hand off the mic here. If Taxi, this came from Michael Miller, Joe Uncool, said if Taxi was made in 2008, 2013, the drugs in question definitely look like meth. Since it was done in 78, 83, the answer is coke. He said he thought he saw my tweet about Latka's cookies. He thought probably something silly like a whippy plant, because you still know there's lots of coke going on with the actors. So yeah, he was dead on. It was coke. And that was his thoughts. Travis, do we have any other mail?
No, that's all we got.
That's all we got. Well, next week we're gonna let Amy take us on a journey. Amy, what are we watching next time?
I'm so excited. So after spending a week doing your show, now we're gonna do my show. This is my show. This is a show I have seen the entire run of at minimum 20 times. I can recite most episodes. We're gonna watch The Golden Girls.
Yes.
I am beside myself. So we're doing season 4, episode 20, which is weird that works out that way, that it's episode 420, which I do not believe to be on purpose. Called High Anxiety.
All right.
So yeah, Golden Girls next week. I'm so excited. It's gonna be a good time.
Where can we catch that one? Is that one on a service?
This one's on Hulu.
Hulu. All right.
Hulu.
All right, everybody out there, you know it. You got to watch Golden Girls. Oh, poor you. It's like one of the greatest shows ever put on television. Yeah, so catch that on Hulu. Episode 420. That's hard to forget. And next week, Amy will take us there. But for now, y'all enjoy your rides back home in this gentle yellow cab. And we'll see you next time here on Those Were the Days.